And no one, Jamie just asked if anyone was here to speak and no one came forward.
Call this meeting of Washington County Land Use and Planning to order. Please rise with me from the silent prayer. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First, the minutes. Are there any corrections that need to be made or any difficulties with the minutes? Hearing none, I will consider them. The next two items in the consent agenda are two items. Have questions on those? We have questions. Do we have motion on those, or we just pass this as part of the consent? I think we just passed it. Okay. I think so. There, we just passed it. Consent. Okay, first item of business is the public hearing. I will ask the county clerk to read the notice of public hearing.
This was published in the West Bend Daily News on Tuesday, April 15th, 2025. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held at a meeting of the Washington County Land Use and Planning Committee on Thursday, May 15th, 2025 at 4:30 p.m. in room 1019 of the Washington County Government Center, 432 East Washington Street, West Bend, Wisconsin, 53095, at which time there will be heard and considered the public hearing for public comment on the final draft of Appendix K, a farmland preservation plan for Washington County as Amendment 2025-1 of a multi-jurisdictional comprehensive plan for Washington County 2050, and the proposed ordinance and resolution will be discussed. And this was dated the 10th day of April 2025.
Thank you. I will now open discussion, public opinion. If there are any speakers, please come forward at this time. If there are any speakers, please come forward at this time. Last call. If there are any speakers, please come forward at this time. The sound of the hoof beats until we're alone. Okay, I will close the public hearing after hearing no comments being made. Now ask for a motion and a second from the committee.
Motion.
Motion by Supervisor Mary, seconded by Supervisor Brightmore. Okay, and it says committee discussed this topic of public hearing and ask questions, so I guess we will like to adoption of Appendix A, farmland preservation plan for Washington. Motion by Supervisor Mary. I move to be adopted. Move to adopt. Seconded by.
Second.
Supervisor Brightmore keeps speaking. Yeah. Let's hear from our people. We're going to do the motion second. We'll have some discussion. Please take it away, sir.
All right. I was just going to be pretty brief and give a summary on the next steps. So if this is recommended for approval, the next step will be for this farmland preservation plan to be sent to DATCAT or the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection for certification. So they're going to review it, and if they have any revisions for the plan, they're going to work with our department on those revisions. But once they're satisfied with any revisions or changes that are needed, they will certify the plan. And then we'll come back to this, the Land Use and Planning Committee, for another recommendation for approval based off of those, and if there are any revisions. After that, it's the county board that considers the resolution and the ordinance, for adoption. So, otherwise, I'm here for, answering any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Okay, hearing none.
Sir.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Thank you. I would just like to make some comments, and I don't know if Supervisor Conrad wants to say anything as well. But my hats off to Adam and his crew over there. If you were involved in this process, you don't realize this began back in what, March? Well, at least the group began meeting back in February, March. I'm sure you're planning with this book weeks in terms of getting prepared for that.
Yes.
Subsequent to the 2 or 3 gatherings of the group itself, then he went to the different townships, different organizations throughout the county, and has probably land use planning himself out for at least another 10 years. There's a tremendous amount of work that went into this, lots of discussion, lots of input. And again, my congratulations, or our congratulations on behalf of the entire land use team for the work you've done on this, Adam, and realize it's not done yet. That's probably why this only happens once every 10 years, because it takes a year to get through the process.
Yeah.
But good job, well done. And for those of you who haven't taken the time, if you really can't sleep some night, pick up the plan, look at it, and by the time you get to the 3rd township, you'll probably be sound asleep. But it's a tremendous document, a tremendous amount of information, and I think we made some progress. Moving down the road, we made some changes, the group did, in terms of the number of farms involved, the minimum number of acres involved, and I'm hoping that will encourage participation. We realize that for many ag property owners, landowners, farmers, the land is what they have. That's their retirement. They don't have a 401k on the side or a retirement plan from somewhere else. And so there's a hesitancy to become involved and say, okay, I'm gonna tie up the property for 10 years or 15 years, whatever, get paid $10 an acre to do it, would be due. But yet there are those who have the foresight, particularly the 2nd or 3rd generation coming into farmland, who want to keep it in farming. And our congratulations to them for slowing down the overdevelopment of Washington County and keeping some pasture out there, getting some hay fields down that everybody can smell in June when they first get cut. And again, hats off to all of our farmers, in particular those who decided that they want to preserve their tradition of agriculture in Washington County. And Adam, again, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Mary. We always appreciate your input. Supervisor Conrad?
Yes, thank you. And as chair of this committee, I obviously have to thank Adam too. He was very influential to sustained his professionalism throughout all these municipality meetings, of which I attended some of them, not all, and also I have to call out a co-chair of mine, Mr. Scott Lofi, too. He individually met with several landowners also on this project, and spoke with them face to face, and barriers and things to signing up, or why they were signing up too. As Mr. Supervisor Mary stated, it really is more of an ethical thing. There's not much financial incentive here. It's more, in the individual's blood and ethical to help sustain the quality of life for their families, passing that, farm on generation after generation. It goes beyond, our quality of life here with the green spaces and saving farmland, but to water and, water preservation, the quality of water with the practices that they have to follow to be eligible for farmland preservation. But yes, these meetings have been going on for about a year. And as you can tell by the public hearing, we've done our due diligence. people are very well informed and on this project had multiple opportunities, the municipalities and individual farm owners to, get information on this, to sign up for it or not. But so yes, but really kudos goes to Adam for this being a success. Thank you.
Thank you Supervisor Conrad, and to those at home who might be viewing this, meeting at a later date. The farmland preservation plan is part of our total comprehensive plan, and is required for state grants. So that's basically what, how these things all come into fruition. Any other questions or comments by the committee? I hear none, I'll then ask for a vote to, accept the plan as approved. Yeah, I'll signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? The ayes have it. And then from there, speaking of the comprehensive plan, we move right on to that. I take it, Adam, you are presenting on that?
The comprehensive plan, let me look here from the. Oh, the ordinance, yes,
Yes.
sorry, yes. That is in addition to this, so, that is still, the farm preservation plan. It is just the ordinance portion, of the amendment. So, same amendment, just, an ordinance as well.
Okay, we need to accept the motion in a second on that. All right, so I'll take a motion.
With the motion.
Motion by Supervisor Kraft, seconded by Supervisor Conrad. Any discussion on any comprehensive plan or, ordinance or comprehensive? She was committee chair, so I see none. I'm gonna move to vote. All signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? But we're all set. Thank you very much. Moving on, we'll go to Register of Deeds quarterly report. Resolutions pending. Nice to see you again.
Thank you, you as well.
Yeah, I get one.
So as in the report, basically, is there any questions regarding what was submitted? Okay,
I got one for you.
sure.
The. With the portion about accepting daily work for your 4 business days, I'm assuming that's an average. You're 4 days behind for the real estate verification.
Yes,
Is that? Like before the transactions occur?
no, so
Or is
transactions,
that the recording of the sale?
everything is recorded the same day we receive it. It's the verification that we're going through, that we don't release the documents until 2 days after we recorded them, to make sure that everything is indexed, everything is correct in the documents. That 2 days is now pushed to 4 days, just with. I was out of the office and I had somebody else call and that was out of the office, so far I've had a few phone calls from title companies saying that a map was recorded, but they can't access it, they have closing and so forth, so. It hasn't been a tremendous issue yet, but if this keeps going, it will.
Is that something where? Depending on the volume of transactions, that it might clear itself out or get worse, just depends on
I
the volume.
see it to get worse because I expect the market to pick back up.
Okay.
If you look at the amount of documents that we've recorded, it's increased 622 for this year so far. But vitals has really exploded with almost 1,300 extra vitals from what we've done last year. Which has to do with Real ID, which that time frame is past now, but not everybody got their ID before then. I mean, that ID law has been going on for 10 years, and it's just now they've set that hard deadline, so now everybody's rushing to get it done.
So for vital records, that's like reissuance of birth certificates. So
To get, yeah, it's certified from birth and marriage certificate, so birth you need males need to show their birth certificate, females need to show their marriage certificate and the birth certificate to show how they got the married name.
Okay.
So that goes on, but, we basically we're increasing with less people than what we did last year.
Okay, Supervisor Mary?
Did we get past the real ID heat, so to speak, with holiday problems, or were there any serious problems encountered?
There were no serious problems encountered. It did take, so older marriages for some reason are taking longer for the state to upload for us. They're supposed to have, the state is supposed to have all of the, not everyone, but the majority of the marriages are already supposed to be partially loaded in there. And then we just send it through and say, you know, they need to fill in the rest of it before we can print it. So the average is about 10 minutes for our customers to wait. Sometimes it's not up to 20, 25. And we just can't keep checking with the individual that's waiting, telling them, you know, apologizing that we're just waiting on the state to update it. But that's not an everyday thing either.
We're assuming that everybody was polite and patient and waited out and
Yes.
realized they had 10 years to get ready, they waited until the last week, so.
No, pretty much. We did have a lot of compliments on our customer service compared to the DMV, so. I don't know if that's, you know, I don't know if that's really a good thing, because, you know, DMV, I don't hear very good things about them sometimes.
That's because we're Washington County.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? A little, I guess, just from myself, I see, you know, you have this idea that, we're gonna probably see an increase in properties and, this could cause us a strike in the office. Would you be then attending to that during the next budget cycle, or?
I've spoken with Aaron about that when he came down. So he's aware of the situation and said that, so when I got elected and then I was full-time position moved into the deputy position and we lost the full-time position. So, that money is still set aside. They didn't take it away completely. So I'm working with Aaron. Hopefully we can get at least a part-time person back into the office, with those funds.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we have the UW extension update. Presenting,
Sorry.
please introduce yourself.
I will do so. Good afternoon. My name is Bill Starkman. I'm a regional cost educator for the UW Madison Division of Extension. And I'm actually coming up on 2 years with Extension, so I'll have my anniversary next week. Thank you. But some things that I've been working on, particularly here in Washington County, is I cover 4 counties. So I have Sheboygan, Fond du Lac, Washington, and Ozaukee counties. But I have 2 nitrogen optimization pilot program projects here in Washington County, and those are the only 2 I have. So I'm really excited to be able to partner with some of the farmers in this area. And what we're doing is we're actually looking at different farming practices and how they affect the use of nitrogen or the crop use of nitrogen. So the one project I have that I'm working on is with Door-Knocker Prairie Acres. And this is the 2nd year of that project, and we're actually looking at manure and cover crops and how that affects crop need and nitrogen need. And then the second one will actually start this summer at Brampton's, which is just outside of town here. They have a beef farm. And our focus is gonna be on looking at using legume cover crops. So things like clovers, after winter wheat, and then what that does for the corn crop that follows. So it's a very kind of intense project. It's actually, instead of being a 2-year, it's really gonna be a 3-year. Because we'll start this year and then we'll have 2 subsequent corn crops that we're measuring data on. So really excited to get into that one. They have 2 different focuses, so always interesting to see what farmers can do on their operations that help us at Extension. I've also partnered with the Washington County Land Conservation Department. I was a participant in their nutrient management program that they held back in January, where, Alan Dornacher and I shared some of the ins and outs of the NOPP program and what we learned in the first year that hopefully, we won't repeat in the second year. Field work is always different than what it looks like on paper, so, that was a great opportunity. And Supervisor Mary brought up pastures and forage and hay. And I've been working with a grad student at the UW-Madison who is engaged in bringing more managed grazing and pastures to our region, in particular, Sheboygan, Washington, and Ozaukee counties. So I've been working with her to pull together some partners in this area to really look at that concept and try to determine how we can work with producers to get more of those perennial crops on the landscape, because we know what that does for water quality. And we know how much our urban neighbors appreciate some of those settings, and I appreciate them as well. So those are some of the big projects that I've been working on specifically in Washington County. I'm a forage, my focus area is in forage. And I've also been able to secure a grant from the Midwest Forage Association to do some work with alfalfa harvest management and helping farmers to identify when the best point is to harvest their alfalfa crop for the optimum yield and quality. So that grant has given us the opportunity to have educators across the state get lab analysis of these alfalfa plants as we go through the season, which tells us more than just doing the measurement. So looking forward to seeing what that grant project tells us after the season is over. So those are the big things I've been working on. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I do. To what degree do some of the industry vendors and suppliers become involved, like in your corn testing that's coming up? I'm thinking like DeKalb, Pioneer, or in the alfalfa situation where we got Dairyland just up here in Kewaskum. Are they involved in this at all, or is it strictly neutral, non-commercial?
Most of this is pretty neutral, non-commercial. We've got to be very careful who we're working with, so we don't show bias towards any particular company. But I will say we do leverage partnerships with industry as well if we need to get the job done. So we do try to work with partners, whether it's a seed company or an agronomy company or a consultant. We're all working on similar type goals, but we can't always do this work on our own. So it's nice that we can complement each other. And on the Ramthun NOPP project, I'm working with the land conservation group here. We're working with an independent agronomist. We all have our pieces of the puzzle.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Is that the full update?
No.
Okay, that's what I kind of thought. Very good, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Kelly John. I am one of the 4-H extension educators here in 4-H or in Washington County. I began this role in January of this year, so I'm about 5 months into this role. I've been conducting an ongoing needs assessment in collaboration with K-12 schools, Moraine Park Technical College, and local employers in the healthcare and manufacturing fields. The goal to identify gaps, opportunities, and areas where 4-H can make a meaningful impact, both by reaching youth and also adult volunteers. Several of the key findings that have emerged from the that you can see on the report actually. First, no surprise that manufacturing and healthcare continue to be critical sectors of the workforce demand in Washington County. Robotics are becoming increasingly essential skills for future workers. High schools offer strong career and technical education programs, including youth apprenticeships, dual enrollment with Moraine Park Technical College. Academics are also offered in schools that align with different career pathways that students are interested in, as well as opportunities to join career-specific organizations like Skills USA and what's called HOSA, or Health Occupation Students of America. And there's more, there's a list. So add in sports and jobs, and you can see why high school students are incredibly busy and sometimes can be difficult to engage. One opportunity we're exploring is connecting them with 4-H through structured volunteer roles, which support their leadership development while helping our programs grow. Another gap we've identified lies in the transition period between middle and high school, That's often when students' awareness of career paths like healthcare or manufacturing begins to drop off. After school 4-H clubs in upper elementary and middle school presents a great opportunity to bridge that gap, particularly in districts that are already looking for enrichment programming. I've also heard from schools about persistent shortage of teachers in technology education, which limits what they can offer, so 4-H can help fill some of that space through flexible, community-driven programs. So some of the things that I've done is partnering with West Bend school counselors in West Bend, as well as at Fair Park Green Tree and Decor in Washington, or in West Bend, sorry, to deliver a series of classroom presentations for fourth, and these sessions focus on problem-solving skills, teamwork for experiential education, all while introducing students to opportunities available in 4-H. I've also hosted interactive STEM activity booths in West Bend as well as Hartford to promote our upcoming summer programming and raise awareness about 4-H's hands-on learning approach, as well as introducing students to the opportunities available in 4-H. Current projects that we are developing, we are promoting the 3 new summer day camps focused on STEM for students in kindergarten through 8th grade. These camps are designed to be engaging, educational, accessible for all families in the county, no 4-H membership needed. I'm working with local school districts to establish new after-school programs starting in this fall. To support that effort, we're developing a tailored curriculum that meets both educational goals and youth interests and fills the gaps in school programming. I had a follow-up meeting with the Director of Community Relations and Engagement for the West Bend School District. He was able to give me a few STEM-related topics that the district would like to partner on, and I'm currently working on developing the curriculum for those to start in the fall. I'm also working with Key Boston School District to do similar programming as well in the fall. In addition, I will be developing new countywide projects to be held at Marine Park that would align with the programming done in after-school programming. These would be programs that 4-H offers, but we do not currently have a leader for. All projects will have a career and college component, including guest speakers, career exploration, and influence. Any questions?
Sounds like you're very busy. But no, I'm glad to see that you are. And did you get to reach out to Hartford High School yet? 'Cause they have a volunteer program.
Hartford, yeah, I'm starting the process to see how we can do in their after school.
Okay, great.
Supervisor.
Yeah, at one point in time, there was some discussion going back a year or so ago about locating your office at MVPC. Is that coming to pass?
It sounds like it is, yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yes, it sounds like it is.
Okay, very, thank you. That gives you right hands-on, on locale. I think that's a great move.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, well, Ron, where you jumped up there, you're really excited, and it's gotta be great news.
So, yeah, Monty Bison, 4-H educator, been here in extension since 2019. So I just wanted to, so I'm one of 2, right, at least the newest, I'm the oldest, in a lot of ways, and so I oversee a lot of the governance and management of volunteers, as well as engaging with just the youth in Washington County. So a quick overview, kind of to wrap up the year, although the year is not quite done, but we're at 689 youth members in 4-H, which is 16% raise from last year. Volunteers are about 220, which is really about steady from last year. So first of all, I got out and do a lot of visits to clubs and at nighttime to projects, see how their governance is doing, see what their leaders need, see what the volunteers need as far as materials or coaching, or even some of the governance of their bylaws and their policies. Right now, springtime is all about, I shouldn't say it's all about camp, but there's a lot of focus on camp. Which I want to distract everyone that it's not about going away to camp, but what does camp offer? So camp offers an opportunity for kids to experience some independence, to try some new activities, as there's a lot of spark that goes on. There's archery, there's nature, there's watching stars, whatever that's called. There's a lot of things that happen within camp, as well as we have 22 high school youth who have interviewed back in January and accepted as they are campers, but they have counselor or team counselor duties. So they're being trained on facilitation skills, leadership skills, and in June, when our camp hits on June 11th, they'll actually be teaching some activities and teaching some theme related topics at camp itself. So if I just quickly recap the camp, we're at about 107 total campers. That's with adults and kids all the way from 3rd grade on up. That's up from like 96, 97 last year. So it's up a skosh. But again, the team, those high school team leaders applying has really increased. Our middle school numbers have increased too, which is great because those are those future kids that I will see later on in life as I focus on sort of the high school age 4-H leaders. So we are doing a training tonight. Tonight's our last training. So they've been learning about facilitation skills, like I said, leadership, safety, time management. Those are all transferable skills that aren't camp related. Those are life skills. But that's the big summary. So any questions at all?
Questions from the committee?
Where's camp again?
Camp is at Upland Woods in Wisconsin Dells.
That's an overnight thing, right?
It's 3 nights. Yep, we leave June 11th. It sounds like you want to be a counselor, so it's June 11th. The bus leaves right over here from the parking lot, and then we'll be back Saturday the 14th. So we could be back Father's Day the next day. We'll be back in time.
I'm speaking to you from a previous century now. When camp was at Anakejing in your Plymouth, is that long since gone, or do you even know about that?
Actually, I have relatives that go there from Illinois that go up there. So it still exists. I don't know what the affiliation is or who runs it, but that is still around.
I wasn't the best of the young people there, so they probably wouldn't want me to come back. So.
Well, we'll take you at our summer camp. So anytime you want to come on over. Any other questions, guys? All right, thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
We have in trouble there.
All right. Moving on, we'll move on to the Community Development Department quarterly report, and look at that, Steph Zolsky, how are you?
So, it's on track for the goals of community development, for workforce attraction, next generation housing, brownfield redevelopment, Heart and Homestead. I believe I concentrate on, discussing our long-term planning. That is the one goal that is off track a little bit. That's our progress report, that goes over the goals, objectives, policies, and programs in our comprehensive plan, and provides a progress update every 5 years as to where we are at. With achieving those goals, the goals still fit the direction of the county, should they be changed, eliminated. So we have sent out a request to all of the departments and partner agencies related to the goals, objectives, and policy programs in our comprehensive plan last year, and we just received the last one that we needed a few weeks ago. So we will be bringing this forward to the committee probably by July. So I just wanted to point that out. Also, I wanted to give you just an update on next generation housing. Things are going very well with our 5 developments. The last home in our Skyway Park development in the city of Hartford just closed a few weeks ago. So A&M Contracting is now going to be shifting their focus to their new development at Partridge Hollow, which is 16 new next generation homes that will be built in the course of the next few years. We have a grand opening, that's scheduled for Cedar Creek Townhomes. Set for July 1st at 4 o'clock. You should be, receiving, an invitation shortly on that one. And you should have already received an invitation for the groundbreaking, for Regal Place up in Flostum. That's set for June 9th at 3 p.m. So, do you have any questions at all? You're happy to answer them.
Supervisor Mary?
It sounds like you're talking about a phenomenal success, Deb. How many houses have we now closed on?
Have we closed on?
Yeah.
I have that information. 48. 48 homes. We have 210 homes that are slated to be developed that have been, the funding has been approved, and 48 of those have closed.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Guess that goal of 1,000 wasn't too far off.
No, probably not.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Well, and let's hope that what we heard the other night, that we keep on track with the state budgets and all the rest of that. So hopefully. Oh, well,
Thank you. Just following up on Supervisor Mary's comment about the number of homes closed. In the past year, you've shared, the number of volunteer hours also on the Heart and Homestead type of program. Do you have current numbers available right now, or how's that looking?
Me too, and I think from now on, when I come to land use and planning for the quarterly update, what I'm going to provide to you ahead of the meeting is going to be our dashboard. We have a dashboard this is on our website, but it's a dashboard for next generation housing as well as the Heart and Homestead program. So I think I'm just going to include this, if you'd like, I just include this with our quarterly report moving forward. But I have that information. We have had 4,992 hours that have volunteered from our recipients to our partner agencies. $45,000 that have been donated to our partner agencies, and then those equate to incentive that has been earned to the tune of $156,000. So it has had a tremendous impact on our partner agencies, and giving back to the community.
very good. That's the kind of news that we can spread back to our constituents and actually have something to crow about.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much.
Absolutely. All right, thank you.
Right. Moving on. Use of strategic priorities, funds, and resources, customer service training. Let me pull this up here. And Jamie, maybe speaking on this?
I can, yes. This information was in your packet. We are looking for a motion to use strategic priority funds not to exceed $10,000 for customer service training in the Natural Resources Department. This training is really targeted at developing a customer service approach for property owners for land use and conservation. We've had some recent turnover, causing us to really look at drilling into culture and customer service. And this is actually an individual assessment approach where employees would get coaching on kind of where their strengths and weaknesses are related to what we develop as the customer service profile for the department. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions from the committee?
Does this involve an outside agency of some kind who's gonna be doing this instruction and teaching?
Yes, MRA.
Yeah, that's what Maria is on there. Okay, I guess this has got confused here, Jamie. What are we supposed to be saying? Who's in the second to vote on this? It's not written as a resolution.
Yeah,
It's a motion to approve the use of strategic priority funds. This is consistent with, how we've approved the use of strategic priority funds for other things. Again, you don't have to, my understanding of this is we'd like to see where the committee stands on it, so the last one you did like this, you made a motion to approve. I think we did just a motion for next 18, so it's just a committee motion or consensus, if you'd rather kind of do that, that would be appropriate as well.
Yeah, I guess I tell you, it's awful confusing. And I think it's consensus with work a little bit, better than if that's okay with you. And even if it's not. You know, I gotta be me. Okay, any other questions or comments from the committee?
We encourage us to approve.
Well, I'm in the customer service business. I've been doing it for over 40 years and, yeah, anytime you talk customer service, especially in government, because it's certainly, there's a need for that. You know, they are customers. You know, they're the people who pay the salaries around here and they deserve quality prompt service. And usually in Washington County, it's not like we have a problem with that, you know, we work very diligent. But I always look that more training is always a good thing. So, Brian, what's your like?
So, yep, I say I'm fine with it because I have no opinion.
Okay. Well, of the board, it seems that we're all relative, of the same consensus that, yeah, it's probably good. Give big thumbs up. Or today's parliaments. Land use and planning committee likes this. Isn't that so much easier? Okay.
Item H, discussion on.
Discussion of health maintenance.
Sure, I'm gonna ask, Brett Scher, our land use manager, recently promoted, making that point with his title, to kind of talk through this item, but he did put this on this agenda, as a result of kind of the next item. There's a number of items like this, you'll see some next month, that kind of lead into what we'll be putting together in the upcoming budget. So he's gonna kind of walk through the memo that was in the packet and the research we've done so far on this.
Yeah, regarding the post maintenance list and the new post permit list that we do, I just kind of want to give you guys a quick overview on it. I'll keep it brief for you. Washington County and every county in Wisconsin is required by state statute to keep track of a maintenance list of all systems. So here in Washington County, we have over 21,000 health systems. Could be holding tanks, mounds, septic systems, ATUs. They all have to be maintained at a certain level, most are for 3 years as of right now. For that, we have to for the state requirements, we are required to keep track of the system permits that we issue, but also the maintenance programs and making sure that these systems are maintained in a manner that goes with state statute, depending on the system type. So right now, we do send out postcards. These postcards are basically a 30-day notice to get your system maintained, pumped, inspected. After that, we send out a second one, and then there's a third one, which usually involves citations if you decide not to pump your system. Right now, we do, and this is where this came up, was we do, since 2016, provide a list, 2 different lists. The first one is a monthly maintenance list, and then the second one is a new permit list. We do charge for this. Anyone is welcome to get this list. We mostly see pumpers, maintainers, but any homeowner can buy this list. I can buy this list. You can buy this list. It's available to the public. For this list, the first one, we charge $100 a year for it. This is just a monthly maintenance list of what systems are needed for pumping. The second list is a new permit list, which is recently installed systems. So that's a $35 charge. So if a pumper or a maintainer was looking at both these, it'd be $135 a year. We send these out monthly to the people who do purchase this list. Where this came up, there's some discrepancies on if we should be providing this list or if we should continue providing this list. There is some correspondence in your packet regarding this topic, and there was a little bit more added to that. We did go through the providers who we provide this maintenance list to. There's about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 10 of them on that list that we do provide this list for. Overall, it's kind of a mixed review on this list. We have some companies that only purchase the list to keep up with competitive rates and to compete with other pumping companies per se. We have some other feedback regarding these lists, only allowing pumpers to get these lists and not the maintainer license, which we briefly touched on with the last topic, which got brought up. Another big point was that from the bigger pumping companies is that it's beneficial for them to send these out to increase their business, while some of the smaller pumping companies dislike these as they don't have the resources to send out letters. In essence, some of the complaints that came in were, since we sell these lists, this allows these pumping companies, maintainers to send out pamphlets when their systems do. So residents could be getting up to 6, 7, 8 different postcards, kind of like election time, where you get a bunch of them mail, similar to that, with 30-day pumping. That is the quick brief of it. Like I said, we do have 9 to 10 people purchasing it. Some of these companies only purchase to keep up with competitiveness, while other ones do like the list and they think it's beneficial to stay competitive and get new business. Also on a new business side, a lot of newer pumping businesses do like this list as it helps them establish their business a little bit better. But it's kind of a quick brief. If you have questions on it, feel free to reach out.
Well, first of all, from my own point of view, thank God for capitalism. You know, if everybody's allowed to purchase the list, you know, I understand small business on it, you know, and you can't send out the postcards and whatnot, but every one of those businesses started out as a small business. It is available, and, you know, maybe you can find a different way to do the job a little bit better. That's what it's all about to me, as far as the public agency goes. We make it available to everybody. And, you know, that's, I think, the best way to serve the public. So, anybody else with some comment? Supervisor Krebs.
On the bottom of that page, it refers to the note, that there's a note about how those lists would be open to public records. There's a cost to public records if to put it
Correct.
together.
Correct.
Any idea what if I would open records request that list versus purchase the list, what that would cost me?
Might comment on it.
Yes.
So just really quick, the list, we charge a fee for a service to generate reports out of our system. They are slightly different than the reports that we would have that would be available for open records. We would only have the reports quarterly and they would be in a slightly different format. We are not required under law to create reports out of our computer systems, which has the data publicly available online. So if we were to stop from generating the lists and providing that service, they could request under open records the lists that we do have that we submit to the state. So they are slightly different. And I believe this is why our county attorney is here today to comment on the open records. That was one of the reasons why we started generating the reports, to kind of prevent that going through the county attorney and dealing with that related to it. But it's just time and materials is all we're allowed to charge for, so we would have to track the time it takes to generate the report, which is not much. And then the physical cost of providing the files, which again, in this case, if it were emailed, is not much. So we're talking probably less than $10 for the report, because it would be pretty quick for us to find, locate, and send.
sound right?
That sounds great.
So once the report is generated though,
It's available.
then wouldn't that be? For the next person who hasn't purchased it, could they open records request that monthly report because it exists?
No, because if you came in under open records request and requested a monthly list, we would deny it under no such record exists. We have not generated it out of our computers and we would not.
But wouldn't you? If someone else did pay the fee, and you generated it for that,
We wouldn't under the open records request. We would not generate or create reports. So we do generate a report and create a report as a service to these individuals right now. That's not the law's requirement. They would be able to request any list that we have in our systems already created. Which we would have one similar quarterly that we are required to provide to the state of Wisconsin.
just trying to think of how someone can get around it, and I think honestly, a good lawyer would fight that pretty good in court. I don't know,
Well,
I'm not going to test the fact.
well, I think that the difference between two lists is one is the generated report, the other one's a quarterly report, and probably some smaller discrepancies between the two as well. But, yeah. Okay, anything else on this? Any questions from the committee? Thank you very much. Then we'll move on to resolution requesting review of the restricted 3-year septic tank maintenance policy.
There's really no presentation on this item. This was postponed from last month, and there's a number of items in feedback that were added to your packet from a few of our pumpers who are here today. But with that, I think we can let Supervisor Krebs maybe go through what his thoughts were.
Before that, we need a motion on second. Supervisor Moore first, Supervisor Conrad is the second. Okay, discussion. Supervisor Krebs.
So this is the resolution that was postponed or tabled, I
Yeah,
always forget which one, which was postponed from last month. If you guys have had a chance in the agenda packet, there are some letters from different pumping companies in the community. Hopefully you've had a chance to review them. I was able to meet with one of them and stuff, one of the companies. And some staff, and we had some discussions about it. What I have in front of you today that I've circulated, and forgive me, I don't think Pam has a copy though.
You can email her one.
Could you? Okay. It's on its way, Pam, check your email. Is a amended resolution that I am going to offer this committee. Take a chance, please take a second to review it. This is my amendment, so I'd be looking for a second for it. And I guess from there, I'll just give the brief explanation of, this resolution isn't to repeal the 3-year maintenance requirements. This is more of encouragement to the state to just put eyes back on their requirements as a whole for that system, for the whole requirements of this maintenance, and just reestablish what's best practices for our state and our communities. So I'll take questions from there if anyone has them, otherwise I'd be looking for a second.
So it isn't entirely necessary that we do a first and a second on it, because it can be offered up as a friendly amendment if we are all in agreement that it is something that you're interested in doing. I have reviewed the rewritten resolution, and honestly don't see anything of significant change other than pulling some of the language that seemed to be a little bit, or maybe somebody could take it in a different way. And kind of correctly state some of the proper verbiage. I think it was probably accurate to what we're trying to achieve. So For me personally, I'm fine with it being friendly amendment. I think it's well done. Simple budget hearing.
No, I just, Brian, the site in the packet here, contacts some vendors who actually do this as a business. Are they in concurrence with what you've written here? Have they seen this?
They have a copy of it just shared at the beginning of this meeting with them, but no, I did not receive any. After our initial interactions, no, I have not had any feedback or communication about what I've put together here.
I guess what I'm trying to get to, basically, do those people in this business, they concur with what we're saying here?
I couldn't speak to them for that, I'm not sure.
Otherwise,
I listened to their points of view and took some of their feedback. I think we had a lot of more in common and agreement. There was very little probably to disagree on with a lot of this stuff. But no, I just finished this up just in the last day or two, so didn't have time to circulate it at the general large.
I read through this and, compared to the discussion of a month ago, when you came up with objection, because I think this is much more clarifying as to what we're actually asking the legislature to do. And to take a look at this 3-year required thing, and I think it's well written. I think I would support.
And I agree, I told you this before, I really like it, I think it's a lot clearer. And I like it, it's a little more specific, yeah, I like it. I support it.
Supervisor Conrad, take it up your input.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I also, the word deregulation was very concerning, and that really didn't reflect our concerns and purpose for, this this proposal. So I appreciate the work put in to rewriting this by Supervisor Krebs. Thank you.
So it seems we're all in agreement that this can be passed through as a friendly amendment. And now it was postponed to this meeting, so now I will take a motion and a second for this resolution as written. Motion by Supervisor Patmore, seconded by Supervisor Krebs. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Vote. All right. You have a resolution.
Thank you.
All right, see you. Thank you very much.
Customer service was perfect.
And now we will have the Bear Park quarterly report. Is Stacy back there? You're gonna come up and present.
Thank you. Bear Park quarterly report, I actually put in the packet, with regards to the strategic priorities. I do just want, I'm not gonna go through that report, but I do just wanna say that we are redoing the strategic priority goals right now. There is one in your packet that you received at the county board related to Bear Park and the Agricultural Industrial Society, which is new and specifically calls out, the kind of a plan, a long-term plan for the Agriculture Industrial Society. So as you're listening to Stacy Holland, who is the executive director from AIS, and Jack Rettler, who is the current president of the Agriculture Industrial Society, give you kind of an overview of what's going on. Please also think about that language as it relates to the request you got last night to offer any feedback related to those strategic priorities. So I did want to just make that connection before they came up. So welcome, come on up.
Good evening. As Jamie said, my name is Jack Rutler. I am the current president of the AIS board. I've been on the board for just over 4 years now. First year as the president. It's an exciting time and a time for opportunity for us, and that's what we're here to show you tonight. Stacy Holland is our chief executive officer. I'm confident that you're familiar with her. She presented to this committee and to the board several times now. I think the first slide that's in the slide deck that you received as part of the agenda packet is our mission and strategic goals. That was, I'm not gonna speak to anything specifically in there. Stacy will get into a little bit of the weeds, but I think it's important that our conversation today is grounded in that. We spent over a year developing a new mission statement, as well as those strategic goals. It's something that we put a lot of effort into. Hopefully you can recognize that. I think when you look at the strategic goals and what we're doing as an organization, obviously it's a little bit of a unique relationship that we have with the county. We're the tenant operator of the Fair Park facility. Really, to me, it centers on two things. One, it's executing the fair, and two, it's the events business that we're in. The fair, we'll talk a little bit about that, but today's probably a little bit less fair centric. I'm way oversimplifying this, but I think the fair more or less takes care of itself. I think we all recognize, hopefully, that we have, I think, the premier county fair in the state. Obviously, expenses have gone up over time, and Stacy will show a little bit of that, especially as it relates to the type of national entertainment that we're bringing in. But as long as we get good weather, we typically have a pretty good fair. And again, weather's a major factor in that. And you can kind of see in one of the slides, the projection that we put together on good weather, bad weather, where the fair kind of falls through with that. The other focus that we've had is really right sizing the events business. Stacy, again, will get a little bit more into the weeds, but the goal tonight, I think, is to show you where we've been, what we're doing, and where we're going, and most importantly, what the county's role in that is. So it's not necessarily a great picture that we're gonna paint, but it's a picture that needs to be painted and the conversation that we need to have. It's especially an important kind of inflection point in our relationship with the county. We've got our operating agreement expiring at the end of the year. And we've got a plan and a path forward, and something our board has tasked Stacy with doing and putting together, and we need to come help with that. And we'll show that to you and hopefully have a good conversation on what that looks like. So with that, I'll turn it over to Stacy, and she can kind of go through the rest of the slides, and happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing up the slide presentation. I'm put together so you all know who I am and I know who you are. It's nice to be in front of you again today. I'm moving on to the next slide, which is kind of a progress report chart. This slide was presented to the board of directors, the whole county board, in December. This is an update to that slide. So really what's included in here is what we've accomplished in Q1. In the upper left-hand quadrant in green there, highlighted some of the items and actions we've taken. On the right side of the slide, you see the arrow with the ramping. I've very simply graphically put where we are on that spectrum on what is our get well plan. As Jack mentioned, we kind of have a situation which I'll talk about here shortly relative to both the fair and the events business. That is the reality. Also, another reason why I am here and why I was brought into the organization to help remedy the situation at Fair Park. So I think we certainly talked about that at some length prior to me even being hired. But just giving this committee an update on where we are and some of the things we've done since I spoke with you in December. I don't know if you have any questions about those. We've continued to execute a price increase at the Fair Park on the event side. I'll quantify that and talk about that in a little bit. We've improved our processes, our entire contracting practices and procedures. They were what I would say less than subpar, less than adequate at the Fair Park for many years. We've done some training with the group, focusing very much on continuous improvement at all levels. We've taken some headcount actions within the organization to reduce fixed costs and right size where we can. And, we continue to execute some of the highlighted items that I shared again in December on the 2025 fair. to continuously add value to the patrons of the fair, continue to operate the fair in a positive way and re-energize the fair in some respects with some new events and activities there, as well as kind of some beautification activities that I also spoke about in December. And then we continue outreach both in terms of high schools, the Hart Homestead, many other organizations, Chamber of Commerce, et cetera. I just highlighted a couple there, but we continue to build relationships is what I would call it. Which we will desperately need as we move forward into the future and talk about what we need in order to create a more healthy organization and a more healthy operating model around the events business. One item not listed on here, but I would comment on is the board of directors. We have been very active in recruiting on the board of directors and being very thoughtful about the dynamics and composition of that board and activating the board in a way that it had not been perhaps activated prior to 2024 when I joined. That effort continues. It's not explicit here, but that is something that we continue to work on as we look forward to our strategic objectives and building a better presence within the community. And parent presence to be front of mind in some of our largest markets, including Germantown and Hartford, which historically, I should say historically, but at least since I've been on, we're not represented on our board of directors. So we're actively recruiting from those communities, AIS board members. That's one of my personal objectives for 2020. Are there any questions on this information? It's quite straightforward. Again, it's more of a scorecard and assessment, as well as a small encapsulation of where we need to go yet. It is certainly not a quick task that we have at hand. It will take several years, as we'll see again in a couple of slides. But we have a vision of where we need to go, and we need to get things stabilized in order to move forward with that. Carol? You have a question?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Stacy. I understand you had strong headwinds for event operations. I think maybe hurricanes may have been a better word for some of that. Have some of those objections that you encountered over these last few months in terms of, you hadn't changed anything in 25 years, it was just a handshake kind of deal. There's been no updating and so on. Have some of those obstacles been overcome?
I would say, Carol, we probably had, I'll just give a rough estimate, about a 50% acceptance in our customer base, but we're still working through that. Number one, we do have some existing quoted contracts that we're trying to work with the vendors on, but there is contention there. I think some of that correspondence made its way to the county board recently in the past few months. Secondly, I would say that there are still more than a handful of events that have contracts at unfavorable terms for the what I call tail contracts in my language through 2028. So we are not through, I guess, the challenge there on those agreements. I mean, we'll have to live them out or serve them out to whatever extent AIS is the tenant operator at the event center there at the Fair Park campus. And then we'll have to deal with those moving forward as well. I guess that's an opportunity, if you look at it that way, because those are events that we have not yet been able to realize what is a long overdue. I'll say more than probably 7 or 8 years of price adjustment relative to the fixed cost base there. So we still have headwinds, but I would say we've made some great progress, and I'll share that. In fact, just to be transparent, for 2025, we have over $60,000 price that we've been able to capture through the pricing adjustments successfully. We've probably lost 2 smaller events, and while that's unfortunate, I will say the dollar value that is impacting the organization, I'll say combined is less than $2,000. So these were events that were significantly underpriced, and I think we're there historically, unfortunately. So we're working with those partners the best we can.
in fact, all of the partners the best we can. As we look to 2026, we quoted an additional $35,000 of additional price increase. Some of that we secured under contract. Other elements of that are still in the open RFP stage. And then looking at what we did just slightly in 2024, we had some small opportunities. So collectively, we've been able to harvest $100,000 just through updating pricing. There's a lot of opportunities there though that we're still working through. How people rent equipment, things like that, so conversations continue. Good question. If we go to the next slide. This is the crux of the reason I'm here today, is to just really talk about what the financials at the Fair Park look like in more detail with this organization, especially as we frame the conversations under the renewal of the tenant operating agreement, beyond moving forward into 2026 and beyond. I shared in the upper left-hand quadrant, the graph, really a split out of what is the two elements that Jack spoke to, the fair and the events business. In orange, you'll see three potential outcomes for the fair. Our budget or forecast is the one in the center. We create a model every year that says, okay, if we have decent weather, what do we think we can do, and what events and activities can we do during the fair relative to the revenues we feel we can generate, and we try to create a model that is, slightly above break even. Some prices are coming in higher than we budgeted, as you can expect, and other things we've been able to hold the line with some of our long-term partners. And then, you have some great uptick. People love the bands. You never quite know what you're gonna get as you put the budget together, which bands you're gonna be able to secure on land. Some of them you have contracts at that time, others you do not. So that all fills in, or as Jack said, you have a rainy Friday night, which would be catastrophic. And I say catastrophic, meaning, it's not gonna be as profitable of a fair, because just people are not gonna come out, and we really need folks on Friday and Saturday. Our relative attendance on those 2 days each day, anywhere between 14 and 16,000 per day. So that is where, the bulk of the activity is. And then we have the events business. And under none of the scenarios, as you will see, does that business reach a point of break even in the current year. Just speaking about that, the fixed cost in the events business, I've captured that as just the utilities, the insurance, and what I would call just dedicated staff towards events. So not the receptionist, not anyone who's supporting the fair, we're just talking about supporting the events. The 11 months of the year that we provide that service at the Fair Park for folks to use the Fair Park for their promoter events, whatever they might be. That's at just under $750,000 on fixed costs, and as you can see, the revenue that we take in is just a little over $500,000. So simple math, it's upside down. The variability that you see between forecast low and high, it's not that wide of a range, because we kind of have the contracts out through the end of the year. Certainly we control the fixed costs the best we can, so there's some minor variability in there. Perhaps how well does one event do on their bar sales? But for the most part, what we have in the books for 2025 at this point is what we will execute in terms of delivering contracts and hosting events at Fair Park for the year. That being said, it puts the organization again this year, and I will say this has been the case at AIS for several years, at a significant operating loss. We are projecting, about $250,000, $260,000 loss at AIS this year. Again, if we have a really successful fair that can mitigate some of that, if the weather is bad, that number increases. So the situation is, one of great concern. How do we fix the problem? We go to the next slide.
Before we go to the next
Yeah,
one,
no
I ask one question.
Yeah.
On that upper left corner graph on the previous slide, the red line What's the difference between the red line and the events?
The red is the cumulative of the orange plus the blue.
Okay,
So that's the combined loss of both.
I guess like looking at the most favorable column, the blue is just a little over 300,000. But when I look on the last of the bottom of the text, it says 725 for fixed costs minus revenue, or then events revenue 515. That's not 300,000 difference there.
Again, that's the fixed cost hurdle, so we do have variable costs in there, so that lower quadrant box is kind of more of a gauge of what we're looking at from a fixed cost basis. So the variable costs, if the cost of beer, there's folks that we bring in, bartenders for the events. There's weekend staff that we have to bring in if there's an event, so there are variable costs associated with the
Blue is
events.
fixed and variable next together. Okay. Sorry, I just got fixated.
Very
on-
good, yeah, thanks for keeping me on my toes. So like I said, moving to how do we close the gap? The first thing is to continue the renewed interest in the fair. We can keep doing the same thing and getting the same results, or we can try new things and try to drive additional attendance, additional interest in the fair, and additional corporate sponsorship and outreach. So we have to get more people in and we have to get more people involved. And I'm just gonna give a little bit of a positive bit of information, since I put this presentation together. We've successfully secured for the first time with the Washington County Fair, a presented by sponsor. So we want to thank Lynch Buick GMC. They've committed to a 3-year presented by sponsorship, which over the course of the 3-year program is an additional $70,000 that they'll be contributing as a sponsorship to the Washington County Fair. We are extremely thankful for that, and we are looking forward to celebrating that, not only this year, but the next 2 years. So it's going to be business partnerships like that we grow, that can help improve the fair outcomes. And that's just one positive example of something that we've been able to secure in the last several weeks. Beyond that, the events itself, we do need to continue with our pricing actions. As I mentioned, we have tail agreements that are still out there. We need to execute that, and then we need to maintain great service levels. And we need to continue to provide more balanced price increases annually relative to fixed cost increases. So we kind of reset our customers' expectations with these larger increases that we were able to take on contracts in 2025, and again, the ones we quoted for 2026. And then we need to maintain that on a more balanced basis moving forward, so that we don't end up in the situation we did before, where we were complacent. As we know, we may be moving forward with upgrades at the facility, and we will need to take advantage of those upgrades as well to help with the overall financial picture there. So capitalizing on any investments that are made at the Fair Park by the county board relative to the technology upgrade and lighting and et cetera. So we'll look to make sure that we align with that appropriately. The next one is naming rights, but I just want to stick with events for a moment. Also in there, we need to drive higher utilization through the facility. So those weekends when we don't have something now, or maybe where we would turn away from a smaller event that, isn't able to, what I would say, carry the value of what the Fair Park is, bring in new events. And we do have a few of those that we've been able to secure in recent months. We've got 2 new events that will be coming to the Fair Park, one in 2026, one in 2027. So there are opportunities out there. And part of my job is to go out and sell the facility as an exposition center, working with promoters and seeing what we can bring into the county to drive additional revenue, not only at the Fair Park, but within the county relative to hotels, restaurants, et cetera. Another area that we're focusing on is naming rights. I mentioned this briefly in December as well to the greater board. I included an appendix slide just where we're at with that, but the EIS board as well as myself and under Jamie's partnership, we're working on a comprehensive program
for naming rights at the fair park. Those have not been actively looked at across the board for some time. There have been a few naming rights, as you know, with the Silver Lining at the theater and the West Bend Insurance Billion. But we are gonna take a more comprehensive approach, and we've got a great work plan there and a subcommittee that's working through that plan. And you can see there to the right what we're hoping to generate annually for additional money to help sustain the fair park through that program. And then, lastly, the obvious cost reductions, keeping our eye on what we're doing and how we're doing it, making sure that we're mindful, knowing that we are a not-for-profit organization and that we need to have great responsibility with where we spend and how we spend. And then, lastly, our partnership with the county, as Jack said, this will not be possible by AIS alone in the next few years. It's going to take time to solidify all of these things. And we do respect the relationship. We understand, that we are here as a tenant operator for the county and the betterment of that relationship. But we do have a large hill to climb, as you can see.
All right, well. Quite sobering.
It is.
Any questions by the committee?
Just an observation, if I may. I probably have seniority of everybody in the room here, having heard presentations from AIS over the last 6 or 8 years. And I commend you for being honest with us here. Too many times in the past, when the administrative committee had oversight, we get the last year's numbers updated, but just a song and dance about this is what we're gonna do. And we always got the rosy picture, we never got the facts. And I think if we had gotten the facts some years ago, we perhaps wouldn't have some of the problems we have now. But that's neither here nor there now, and I appreciate, and we appreciate your candor and coming in and saying, hey, it ain't roses, folks. But walk with us together on this and we'll get past all the barbs and the thorns, and eventually we're gonna have a very nice path coming down in the future. It's a phenomenal facility. I'd like to think that with the improvements that are gonna be made with the whole upgrading and sound acoustics and the other AV stuff and so on, that 5 years from now, we can look back and say, man, we've really come a long way. And the numbers are gonna be way up in the black as opposed to the red you have here. And you can be getting some, your naming contracts and your renewable contracts back onto where they should be to be competitive and have great success moving forward. Again, I thank you and I commend you for your honesty here today. This is good, thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Of course, you always wish there's a better picture to be presenting when you have an opportunity to speak in such a distinguished group. So thank you for your time. I can't leave without a little sales pitch. We are looking for volunteers at the Washington County Fair. So I have these QR codes. You can sign up there. Jamie, this one is for the PAC. Thank you very much for putting that up. And this one is for the county offices. Would you mind delivering that to someone here in the building? So thank you both. We're really excited about the fair. Again, under a sobering commentary. We're super excited about the fair. We've got a lot of fun with things going, I think.
One moment, please. Supervisor Conrad.
Thank you, Chair. And yes, I also want to reiterate, greatly appreciate the truth and transparency. That is very important, and your probably crucial conversations that you're having with those contract talks. I keep going back to your mission statement and the strategic goals, and that's truly what we need to focus all actions on. And just by your presentation today, it seems like that's what your actions are, truly focused back on going to the mission statement and the strategic goals. So thank you very much.
Okay, then Supervisor Frankel.
Maybe you don't have anything to say to them. I think you look at it that way. Thank you. We've got a lot of motivated people in Washington.
Supervisor Krebs.
Thank you. With the AIS contract coming due at the end of the year, seeing the situation here, what's the next steps? What, where, with the partnership of the county? What, yeah, who's taking the reins on that? Where are the conversations happening? Where does this committee or the county as a whole fit into it?
Yes, so at this point, we are going down the direction of renewing the tenant operating agreement with the Agricultural Industrial Society. We are also looking at, the amount of subsidy that will be included in the county executive's budget that comes to this committee in June or July. So there's a number of different things that the, administrative team is reviewing related to demands on that and what can be afforded and what cannot be afforded. And so we'll be having those conversations. And there's a number of other details in that agreement that I think we are starting to have conversation about, but I will be leading the charge on the county's end of reviewing that agreement unless otherwise directed by this organization or by this committee, this committee and county executive. So that is the county executive's directive.
So at the end of the day, once like the framework's worked on, we'll obviously coming back sometime fall or I would assume to the county board then for the approval and adoption of agreement at that time.
The committee doesn't approve agreements per se, but you will definitely approve the budget. And as it's related to the strategic priorities document, kind of which calls for, what else we might like to see as a county. With regards to those terms, I think that's part of this conversation. I know we were talking about wanting to see, a very specific path for financial sustainability as potentially part of that. So this would be one opportunity, and I know we'll have more leading up to that agreement with regards to what other things might this committee look for or want to see as part of that agreement.
Thank you.
Okay, Jack, what was your last name again?
Rattler.
No, sir. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, and finally, I've heard your name mentioned several times, but we never got a chance to meet. So I'm Dennis Callen, Chairman of Land Use and Planning. I'm a very direct guy. I speak exactly what I'm thinking. I'm not saying I'm always right, but you're never gonna question what's on my mind. Okay, so, I will tell you this, you have a lot of support, on this board as a whole, for AIS. But there is an understanding too that in the very near future, we could be facing some very difficult times this board. And that has to do with Act 10 and the possibility of not having a state budget. I don't know if you saw last night's county board meeting where we got a pretty brutal outlook from the county executive. But those things are what might happen. They aren't what necessarily will happen, but there could be times where we have to kind of work through some difficulty. But I felt the need here tonight to hear from my lips to you is we are very committed to AIS. And we are very committed to this fair. And we will find ways to work through this, even if times get tough, we'll figure it out. But it is going to take a lot of cooperation back and forth. And we may not get what we want, you may not get what we want at the time. And that's the message I think that us is that we are committed. We are, we are here for you. But understand we're in a difficult spot too. We provided some pretty good funding to get you CEO and get some new upgrades and stuff like that. And that may still continue. But we're just a little bit pulling back on the conservancy side right now until we know what direction our state is. So I just, gotta bring my own bad news into this understand. But I felt like if I'm just telling you up front from direct, we may face some challenges very in the future. Maybe not, hopefully not. I'm a huge fan of the fair. I go every year. I take my vacation at fair time, and so I can be there pretty much every day. And I'm not the only one. I see all the other town board members there too. So It was a pleasure to meet you finally, and, if you ever wanna chat, I'm always so.
Well, I appreciate the commitment and you saying that. I guess the need to relay the same to you, I'm always committed to solving these issues. I think you see that with the investment that we made. Might not have made the most financial sense at the time, right? To go and hire someone that costs a little bit more money for us, but with those, you saw on the slide with the green arrows, none of that would be possible without Stacy's leadership and her initiative. And the status quo wasn't acceptable for us. We were continuing to dig a hole and it was time for us to stop digging, so we value the partnership and the relationship we have with the county. See the county as obviously a key player in that. We're hopeful we can work through this together.
I tell you, it's a far cry from where we were 4 years ago. You know, it was pretty brutal between the county board and, yes, and it's so nice to see us actually cooperating, same trajectory. So, outstanding, pleasure to meet you. Okay, I was trying to skip
Can I
over.
make one more point?
Yes.
One more point I wanted to point out on the slide. I know Stacy put the slide in about the naming rights. It is also the current direction that AIS be able to leverage that money. And so there is some conversation there with regards to, naming of the entire park. So, that's Washington County Fair Park and Conference Center. You see that tag there as $75,000 a year target, to rename that. So, that is something we're working through with regards to process and what that looks like, but that is something that is going to be sold. So again, I know we keep hammering on that, but then it is the intent to work towards changing the name of the facility. So just saying that again all out for this group.
And I would say this, to that, Jack, you can hear it right from my own, if it's got a flat surface that you can slap a company's name on it, you go ahead and do it. Okay, I mean, anywhere in any way, I don't care if it's men's restrooms brought to you by Arts Plumbing, I'm fine, you know? Because in this day and age, it's about the marketing, it's about making money. Go for the buck.
Carry away with the rest of it.
And my point being is just that in private sector, you would find any revenue stream you could. Because at the end of the day, that's how I'm gonna feed my family. Government, the way I run government, I'm sure everybody else in this room is kind of the same way, and all prejudice. You should be running it like a business, you should be doing all the things that you can to make it run smoothly, and in this case, probably Zoom continue to support it, or don't do it at all. That's just the way it is.
I'd like to make a comment on that. Please, let's not go the way of some of the European agricultural fairs where they literally do have ads on the inside of the doors of the restaurants. I beg you, please don't go there. You caught my attention.
You were gonna be on your phone anyway, so.
It's a very common.
Okay, Jamie, I did skip over and we can get back to your presentation of the Fair Park quarterly report. Just had a couple items on there. Anything,
Nothing more.
I mean, it's all in the green and everything's on track. Nothing to be added. Okay, great. With that. Our next meeting date is June 19th, 2025 at 4:30 right here. I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Me with my volunteer full-time